But then, just from a technique perspective, we want you to, you know, render this thing, give it some context. You'll notice on this rendering, and I'll try and do one a little bit later if we get to that point, it's very streaky, but that doesn't necessarily stand out. And so we'll just talk about maybe some approaches to doing some glass or translucent plastic as we continue today. What I've been thinking is that I've been stuck on this idea for a couple of years. So, in an attempt, this is always scary, right? So I'm just going to explore. I don't know where I'm headed, but I'm going to kind of share with you some of the thoughts that I go through. If I've gotten to this point and I'm like, oh, you know what? There's really nothing new about this idea. Maybe I think that this angle is different than what it was in the past. I realized that, you know what? I'll continue to explore this before I move on to different shapes, because I realized that I wasn't thinking through where the filter needs to go and where the drip actually would happen. And so the architecture of this doesn't actually work the way that it should. And so I'm just going to kind of quickly think about the reproportioning of this product, where I like this idea. I like the proportion here, but it's not going to work. I like this idea of a rectangular, maybe a square footprint with kind of a handle or something else coming out of it. So that may be, over here on this side, and maybe this is my proportion, where my water reservoir would end up in kind of this area, and then you got the filter, reusable filter. So, you know what? Let me just very quickly. I do want to explore this idea, and it's going to take me into the next page. I think, let's do just a really tiny thumbnail. One of the other things that I wanted to point out with this sketch, and let's look at these two, is that when we think about the 3 cube rules from the summer, look at the orientation and the perspective that I'm looking at that. What's wrong with setting this drawing in perspective up the way that it's been set up right here? Anybody see anything that's kind of wrong with it? It's basically at 45 degrees, and I've got some details that sit at 45 degrees. And so when I get over to the spout and the handle, that handle actually sits kind of in a 1-point perspective orientation, where trying to show the thickness and the details around that handle are not as easy as if the handle comes out at a different angle. So I want to be very careful to try and set this thing up in a way that it's not 45 if I have a detail that's coming off at 45. So look at the different ways that these perspectives are set up. Both this one and this one, I've set it up to where I've got a shallow angle over here and a steep angle over here. Same with this, shallow and steep. And that gives me an opportunity when I get to this point in the construction of the handle. That handle is still in 2-point perspective versus going into 1-point perspective. Same thing here, and I guess that's, I didn't do quite as good a job on that with this one, but with this one I think I wanted to show the detail of kind of this triangular shape that made up the spout. So I say all that because I'm just going to do a really tiny thumbnail perspective and move on for this idea, something that's coming out at an angle. So I'm going to go steep and shallow. Means I got a faster and then the construction of this, I could probably finish, my block, and then I can use this diagonal to show the angle with which that handle or the details would come out. I need to step up a little bit. How's my proportion? Yeah. So what I'm thinking here, I'll just, and again, this is more sketch technique than anything. Here's my 90-degree angle. I'm gonna pull this kind of detail. I don't know. When I first did this, I was thinking about like signs in old downtown districts that you've got like a sign coming off the corner of a building, and it's got some kind of information, the name of the hotel or whatever it may be. What could you do with that? And then can I put that lid maybe at a little bit of an angle? I will tell you, even though I'm drawing this really small, we don't recommend that you draw this small. But it's just an idea. Like I'm ready to move on from this idea, but I want to see if this is worth exploring a little bit more as we move forward, right? And the idea, maybe I'll just even sketch in what that handle might look like right here. And there needs to be some clearance. I forgot about that clearance. It needs to be some clearance for this little detail right there. You know what? I may come back to this, but that's enough of a thumbnail. That can count as one of my 30 sketches. This one probably needs a little bit more work to count as one of the 30 sketches. Yes?
I think you can rotate in place. You can keep going off screen on that right side over there.
Yeah, so we got the dripper. You got like this pressure and the bubbles that come up through this aluminum tube, and it's dripping down. And ultimately right in here, I would need to have some way to capture that and take it into my tea kettle, which is going to have a corner there. Maybe I'll have one of these simple little readouts right in here. Water reservoir, etc. So I'm beginning to understand somewhat the architecture. If I had done this earlier, and did I zoom in? If I'd have done this earlier, I would have realized that the architecture for this design wasn't really going to work. Okay, so now, I mean, I think they heard of what I talked to somebody about this the other day, what a morphological matrix is. Anybody heard of that? You can set up kind of a, this is a way to kind of force some creativity. But one thing that you can do with a morphological matrix is you can set up this table, and you can pick up different components. This is a simplified version. You'll learn more about this in methods. A simplified version where I might pick different details. So let's just say I'm going to go with the carafe. I don't know if that's how you spell it. The shape. And I'm going to go with handle shape. And I'm gonna go through this fairly quickly, but it's a way to get there. And I'm gonna go with handle material. Let's see. What else could we do? We could go with color. We could go with carafe material. And then you can set up your different options that you anticipate you could use down below. So carafe shape, square, triangle, sphere. How about an ellipse? Handle shape. Let's go with edgy. Soft, round, straight. Torus.
Yeah.
Handle material, plastic, metal, wood, cork. What else? Silicone. Any other materials I could use for the handle?
Leather.
Leather.
Nice stitching.
Oh man, handle shape. I'm gonna put incorporated into the form. Color, gray. We'll go with the boring ones. B-A-B-E. How do you spell beige?
B-E-I-G-E.
I'm a terrible speller. Let's see. Man, I'm gonna go with yellow. Yellow, red. What's that?
The avocado green?
Avocado
That green specific.
Yeah.
green. We're going back to mid-century. Orange. Carafe material, glass, aluminum, rubber. Maybe we could work some in.
Pottery? Oh yeah, like ceramics.
Okay, so here's how you use a morphological matrix. This is a very simple way to approach this. We've thought about including this into an assignment before, and asking you to do one of these. I'm trying to think this week, Robert, what were we talking about? Oh, and I actually thought, and this is why I'm doing this, because I talked to some people about their EDC and generating concepts for their EDC, and you could actually put like just different function. You could put, this column could look the same as this column, but the point that we're looking for right here is that I'm going to make concept one. I'm going to go through and I'm going to pick this with an edgy handle that is wood, and I'm going to bring in, since it's wood, let's go with something warm. Let's go with red. And I don't know. Let's try the ceramic. And so what I can do is I can use those elements to help me generate the next concept. Does that make sense to everybody? It's just a way, hey, here are my options. Here are some things that I think about. Obviously, when you get into like shapes and generating form, you could drop in all kinds of different shapes in there, and that may help spur some ideas. And in fact, that's exactly what I was thinking. I did a lot of this in my head without necessarily writing this chart down, but this chart, this matrix could give you some help. So I'm going to go,
Old school algorithm.
yeah, I'm going to go ellipse, edgy. Let's see. So I'm going to start with the carafe, and I'm going to work my way towards something else. So I mentioned, kind of an elliptical shape, but I want an edgy handle, so I'm actually going to cut that elliptical shape maybe right there, and then we'll go with something that's maybe a little bit more triangular with the handle, and then get the edge there, and then maybe what I'm going to do is, yeah, I'll have that cross section, the cross section of the handle go all the way down. So let's just look at that. Maybe I have a little spout out here. So this, I wouldn't say, I'll tell you this, I wouldn't say this necessarily counts as one of your 30 sketches. Let's see, that one quite halfway.
A little bit.
So if it was simple, kind of the simple elliptical shape, oh look, my handle's disappearing behind kind of the main vessel area. So there's the simple shape. I already don't like that. So just to kind of get credit for this sketch, I'm just going to finish out just a little bit more. Let's go ahead and put some kind of indicator over here on the side. I don't know how, I haven't seen a lot of, there's not a lot, I haven't done a lot of work in ceramics, and I'd have to look up how you might incorporate like a glass window into ceramic. But I'm ready to move on. What if I go with
Because we are discussing, if you choose, if you do your matrix and your whatever your final design is, make sure you have some elements to it that have transparency or translucency, so that the tea or the coffee or the tea or whatever can be visible through it.
So I'm going to add some, I'm going to make this next idea just a little bit more dynamic, I think. So now I'm thinking side view. What can I do with that? Where would this be? Do I have, let's see, maybe I can open up the handle right there, and that gives me the opportunity for, you know, me to press that down. Maybe it stops right there. So I'm going a little bit more angular. Again, some kind of transparent element that shows me. Notice how right here I'm just, when I look at every line that I'm putting on this orthographic view, I'm trying to figure out how it relates to some other things. So like the top of that window is working in line, at least from this orthographic perspective, working in line with the handle, the angle of that handle. Let's see, what if this kind of just kicks out just a little bit at the end, and I can carry this all the way out. That's probably pretty thick. What did we say? Ceramic?
Yes.
Edgy handle. So let's see, how am I going to make that happen in perspective? I'm kind of thinking that maybe this one, this is getting real thin. Maybe I can, the edgy part will just be how that's cut off right there. So let's do another perspective sketch. Maybe make this one a little bit larger. I'm feeling more confident about it. Because this is elliptical, right? It's not like I've got the chord method that can help me define exactly what's happening with that. But I want y'all to try and remember some things that I can incorporate. If I want to put that shape in right here, this kind of elliptical shape from here all the way over to there, somewhere on here I need to figure out, this is a line going towards my left vanishing point. So when I draw this elliptical shape in, what I want to do is figure out how wide it is back here, and I want to make sure that when that shape comes around in perspective, I'm coming through that point tangent to the left vanishing point. This thing is getting a little bit wider and then coming back in. And in fact, I just drew this flat. What I really want to do is I want to draw it at an angle. So let me take that point down. I'll leave these points where they are, and I want to come now through this point tangent to that left vanishing point. And then let's see, so I have kind of an angle coming down from back here. I've got an angle coming from the front. This comes out just a little bit, so the silhouette's just kind of out there. Then it's going to be flat, so I'm looking at that. Let's see, proportionally. Here's where I really feel like drawing. Sometimes I feel the proportion in perspective, And sometimes, and I think it comes when I'm doing more curvilinear stuff, more elliptical, cylindrical, that I feel the proportion better, not in orthographic, but in perspective. So I'm trying to figure out how tall I want this to be. And I'm thinking about that mass and that proportion. Here's my original horizontal right vanishing point. So I need to put this down here. That's where that's going to stop. What do I want to have happen on the sides? Do I want the sides to taper in? I can grab this point and just take it straight down. If I didn't want the sides to taper in, then now I've constructed, let's try that and just see what happens. So as I mentioned, it's getting a little bit wider and then coming back in, right? So see how I built up that form? Now I've got to figure out what's happening back here. And as I I wanted it edgy. You know what? I'm abandoning my morphological matrix C1. I'm not going edgy. But I'm going to change this up somehow. Maybe a little bit sharper. So it's not quite working with that ellipse. Okay, we're going edgy. If I take that point down and then carry it out, this is somewhere about right here. And unfortunately, from this view, I can't really see what's happening with my, I don't have a lot of room. This is kind of pulled back in a weird angle. So if I draw this again, if I don't abandon this idea, I'll make sure to sketch it from a different angle. I can start to hint at some of the stuff that's happening back there, but it's really quite difficult. What I want to do, what did I say? Wooden handle? So I'm going to cut that handle off right there. We'll make it wood. This might be a good time. To just very loosely put that in there. Man, this is bad. That's so boring, right? This is not good. But let's see. What else can we do? What if I taper this in a different direction? So what if this moves towards flat? So it's thinner out here and thicker right through here. And let's go with a, I don't know, what would it look like if this kind of window was really pretty big? And let's let that window take on some of the shape. That's close to flat. This is going to take on some of the angle of the front silhouette of this thing. And then, like I said, I'm going to need to do some research to figure out how to get this window into ceramic. But let's see. Let's first just kind of define what I want that window to do. I'm going to put kind of a chamfered edge. This works a lot towards what Rusty was encouraging you to pursue last week with your EDC, is, you know, instead of just flat and flush right across there, can I add some visual interest through maybe a recessed kind of area? And then I can right here, maybe, let's see, one, begin to define what's going to happen on the inside of this. And let's see, that would kind of come around. I might see what's going on back here. What do y'all think? No? I'm with you. But to finish this sketch, I'm going to try and harness my inner Jean Schwan and do some nice line work out here. And man, I think maybe more than anything, I just don't like those proportions. Now I wish it was taller. Or maybe that something different happened back in here. You know what? I'm gonna screw this sketch up just a little bit and say, you know what? I'm gonna come in like that. I'm gonna explore on top of this exploration. I'm gonna just switch. It's gonna go from kind of convex to concave. I already like that better. So that gives me something else to explore over here. I'm gonna flip my sketchbook around. The proportions of this. So let's look at that just in a very quick orthographic view. Come in there, and I'm gonna swing it around like so. And then I can have a round, completely non-edgy handle. So let's see if there's something else I can do. Ellipse, let's go ellipse. Here's my concept 2. Ellipse, round. Let's go with the cork this time. Let's go with orange. And you know what? Let's go back to glass. So there's my C2. Again, that's just kind of a simple way to maybe help you generate some additional concepts. I'm gonna leave that where it is. Let's come over here. This time, so I intentionally, for the purposes of this demonstration, went through a bunch of those construction methods right here, right? So on this one, I'm intentionally kind of saying, all right, if I need to construct this, this is the way to do it. If I'm drawing this and I'm doing exploration sketches in my sketchbook, I'm putting the ellipse down and then I'm figuring everything else out from there. I'm gonna go a little bit more aggressive with that angle, maybe a little bit more aggressive with this angle. I'm gonna change my proportion just a little bit. Here's this whole thing is kind of tapering just a little bit. So there's that, here's that, there's that. That gives me what I need to begin to construct what this footprint is. So even though this is a lot quicker, I'm still thinking about the tangency of this elliptical shape along that front edge as I build this up. And then back here, I'm very quickly going to add that. Let's see, what does this angle need to be? And then this should move over into a small elliptical shape. So we'll have something kind of like that back there. Let's go with a thin. This isn't even going to be a window. It's going to be just a small kind of recessed indicator right here. And so to define what I'm doing with that, I'm just going to draw a little section view right there to define that. I'm going to cut, you know what, let's add just a very tiny, I'm going to change this and add just kind of a very tiny little spout right there. See how that transitions in. I don't know if I like it. I like the purity of something without it. And I'm going to wrap this lid like so, and do the same thing. I did like that detail on that last one where it was a little bit thinner. That cap was a little bit thinner in the front, a little bit thicker in the back. And now I need to, okay, so if I'm thinking about how that coffee is going to drip into this object, I want to have ramps. Is that the right word? A funnel. I want to essentially create a fairly shallow funnel on the top of this. And so I'm imagining how this might sit within the context of a larger coffee maker. It's got an angle here. I don't know what that larger coffee maker looks like yet. But I'm going to have my filter and the water and the coffee coming down in here. And so I want to create just a very tiny funnel. So instead of drawing an ellipse right here, what I'm going to do is step down the distance that I think, you know what, and I'll even do kind of, I'll mimic the shape to some degree. So I've stepped down, and now I can begin to hint at what is happening with that top surface, right? It's going down, and it's going to come back up, and then I'm going to have, I'll have just a little dimple right here from my thumb to help me know what's happening. How long did that sketch take? 3 minutes? With a lot of commentary? All right, well, at this point I think I'm maybe onto something. So now what I want to figure out is how this object, this form, might fit with the rest of the coffee maker. Well, actually what I want to do first is think about maybe this wooden handle. So that wooden handle might come up. I don't know. Something's going on in there. Or cork. I said cork. You know what might be nice is if that cork actually went a little bit larger. I'm accentuating that cork and taking it out of the form. I want my customer to see that this is a premium material and premium feature. All right, let's put a little chamfer down here, where that's going to meet the hot plate. What do you think about that? It's better, right? A little bit more interesting. What else can I do? What if I put a reverse curve in this thing? I could come over here, and I could add, reverse. And at this point, this is just maybe helping me with future ones. And maybe I could do something where it's a little bit like that. Nope, I don't want to do that. I want to figure out how this might fit. So I'm gonna have this shape. Sticking out of a coffee maker. It gets a little bit wider, but what if I continue this kind of angle? And what if I don't know, let's say I mimic this shape to some degree. Now it's starting to feel like a Keurig. I don't want it to feel like a Keurig. But if this is the cavity that sits in, and I don't know, maybe it's flat over here. What can I do with some of these surfaces? Where can I build in some functionality? I can have my reservoir back here. More than likely, if I think about how this thing would be used, they might push one of these edges up against a wall on a countertop. Okay, so let's see You know what? I can actually, if I do this lightly enough, I can begin to sketch. I can begin to sketch what that shape might look like, and maybe even it's just the footprint, what that shape might look like on the ground plane, and even build it up. Kind of ghost in what's happening. I need the filter and everything up here. I don't know if I'm gonna like this. We've already defined that my coffee maker's about kind of this. It's got an angle like this. Maybe I take the opposite angle for so now I'm just trying to figure out what this might look like. This is my side view. I will need kind of a lid here that comes back. And I just don't know right now what I'm gonna do with the rest of this. I could, let's see, reservoir, somewhere on here I'm gonna have a reservoir. Let's with this. Those of you who are still wondering how like 5 lines might help you, it's thinking about this proportion on this side view. You know, if I've got something right here, I've got a handle coming out like so. I'm looking basically at 1, 2, these aren't all vertical, but I'm looking at something similar to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines. And so I'm just thinking about how to kind of make this somewhat interesting. And then I've even got a line that gives me the notches maybe for the water level. So that's kind of weird. I don't have a lot of room here. I do want to get to the point where we're sketching and doing oh goodness, we're doing a rendering. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and do that. Did you bring some paper?
Yeah, there's a couple pieces over here.
So you can see where I'm starting to head with maybe, at least I've got an idea. Thank you. As to where I'm heading with the overall coffee maker. I want to render this carafe and show you a couple of quick techniques. And so I'm going to switch over to some larger paper, and we'll go with that. Are there any questions? Do you find it interesting? Like we've been talking about, you know, exploratory sketching and going through this design process quite a bit. Are we boring you to tears when we sketch in front of you and do this exploration? Is it helpful to see? And this is part of what we think is really important. It's really weird for us to do this, by the way. It's really weird, and we're putting a lot of faith in ourselves.
In some rock
to
we
sit.
practice more than we do here. Like here we don't really practice before we draw. In some rock we practice because it was critical to get things right.
Yeah, and we're drawing things that we've drawn 3 and 4 and 5 times. When I sat down today, I didn't know where I was headed, right? I was right here, and we're gonna end up right here. This is gonna be interesting. This is probably not my aesthetic style, at least in the year 2022. This kind of interesting, funky shape. I've been moving more towards a bronze aesthetic over the last 3 or 4 years. But my next step in this sketchbook, if I didn't move on to doing this rendering, would be to flip the page or maybe do another thumbnail similar to what I did right here, just for this overall form, and see if that worked out. Okay, so one thing that I want to do, since I need to rotate this, I'm just going to fold this in half, is part of the detailing of this concept is this handle. I still have to figure out that handle, but I'll try and figure it out on this sketch. But I'm going to try and, so what I want to do is I want to draw this like I did here, where that handle is somewhat facing me. So it means I've got to shift a little bit my perspective. So I'm going to start with the bottom because it's a little bit easier for me to draw that bottom. And sketch in that first elliptical shape. And I'm trying to think about those proportions. And then somewhere along here, it's going to break. You know what? This probably needs to be a little bit wider. I feel like that needs to be. Oh, and I need to do this in pencil. The marker is going to screw up the pen. And then I'm going to go up at an angle. I think that's probably a good spot. This is going to go up at a slight angle. This is going to go up at a slight angle away from this, which might be my center line. So my height, I'm feeling, is going to be somewhere about right here. I'm going to put an angle in to help me see this weird elliptical shape that I have to draw here, and I want it to actually be a little bit more extreme. What's going to happen to that this ellipse when I draw it up here at that angle, angling away from me? What's going to happen to it? It's going to get super thin. And I don't even know how to check this, but I'm just going to leave it like that, and we'll see if it gives me the information that I need it to give me. I probably need to go a little bit darker, right? Can y'all see that? Barely. So here's kind of the diameter of my handle. I'm just going to put that down here at the bottom. I'm coming from these outside points. I'm drawing in. There's going to be some thickness coming from here. Carry that height over to the back side. There's going to be some thickness going back into another elliptical shape right here. Even though I've kind of moved off of my original ellipse that I drew up top, I'm going to put another ellipse in right there. From here, wow, this is weird. This is so thin. I probably would again choose a different angle to draw this from, simply because this is getting super thin. My cork is actually going to be a wrap. So because it's kind of a wrapped detail, I can make that cork detail kind of get a little bit larger, and it's tapered, so it's like a very thin truncated cone. Now the question is, do I see any air through this backside? Now my proportions feel a little bit strange again. This handle, because of this perspective, looks pretty giant, right? This ellipse up here is almost going to disappear. And then what did I decide? I wanted to go with kind of a thin. You notice my proportion, you may have noticed my proportion has changed. this is kind of flat. So I'm going to draw like a little section line in here to help people understand what's happening with the form. That section goes over like that, and then towards the right vanishing point. Here's the cork. I mentioned earlier, I want that cork to stand out a little bit proud, so I'm going to put a little bit of a fillet on the cork up here, and then it's going to go down to there. So here's my cork. Here's where that plastic, whoops, that plastic is doing something like this. It almost feels like I'm changing my mind right now. I don't ever want the elliptical shape to change. I don't want to put this detail in there. I just want this to continue around. Like so, which means that that's going to move down to here. It's going to move that there. Okay, regardless. So with glass, with translucent plastic, you're going to really probably want to define the material thickness. So, Rusty, may I see the straight edge? So what I'm going to do is really come in. I'm going to make this a little bit darker right here. But I'm going to define, since this is just, there's no edge, there's no corner right there. That's maybe a mistake for me in helping define this. I want to define the material thickness. So the material thickness on this, I'm just going to estimate to be about right there. I'll get probably some kind of little fillet or radius down at the bottom. But I think I can kind of blend that into some material thickness that you would see as it rolls around on the bottom and the top. And then this is where it's a little bit funky, right? Because I'm translucent, I actually want to define that material thickness on this little recess detail. Especially right in here. And it's going to be a little bit thinner. Whoops, not that thin. Hey, look at that. I think this is the first time I've erased
It's in that pencil.
in a long time. Okay. So, flare tip, which I think I put right there. I'm going to go ahead and define this edge. If I'm not mistaken, I'm gonna. This is a flare. This is a way maybe to get. Never mind. There it is. Here's since this is going to be plastic, here's kind of a small filleted edge. So I'm going to put 2 lines to define that filleted edge. The filleted edge is going to roll up. Let's see, we've talked about maybe leaving this as kind of an elliptical shape. So I'm looking at this curvature across here, and I want to mimic that curvature right there. I'm going to hint at this kind of filleted area, right? Just a very subtle hint that shows some of that contour. Let's use this again. No, let's go with this. Bless you.
Would you do that hint at the bottom?
If I saw a good opportunity, it's going to be so close down there,
Okay.
and I'm actually thinking that the way that I drew it, that this is, it's a little, the cork is a little bit thicker up top than it is on the bottom.
Got
I don't think we're gonna see light through this as I work through that construction. I'm looking at where this edge would be on the back side, right? So I can walk up, I can walk over, and then I can walk down. So that edge is somewhere in here, so it's not really gonna show up. If I was doing this for a client, I would have tried to find a French curve that would give me that and this. Since I'm not working with a client, I'm not overly concerned with it. I think I would see kind of that material thickness more from this angle on this side of this little recess. And it would actually split, like kind of the material thickness and the transition would split this line on the back side, but I'm not even gonna worry about the back side right now. I'll come back in when class is over probably and finish the rendering. I'm just gonna try and get to the glass today. Let's see, this might wrap around. And then roll over and come up. Oh man. Okay, real quick. So here's what you do with glass. You watch those videos, but what you can do is you can define the outer edge, define the material thickness like this, and you might not even put material thickness all the way across, but I would recommend that at first you don't succeed, put it all the way across, and then and I think last year, and I rewatched the video from last year, I said maybe try and fill in between those lines in a way where you've got some taper in some places. Like it tapers around. And you're just kind of guesstimating, you know, what around this environment is happening. And I'm just filling in what I said to be approximately like 40%. Because it'll pick up on, that thickness will pick up both on shadows, but it'll also pick up on highlights. And then some things that will happen as this rolls around is that dark edge might roll as well. And then you can come in with like a darker marker in certain places. But basically you're kind of making a not solid. I like to think about it as kind of a vector shape in here. And not filling it in all the way, but rolling that around in certain places.
The double line is really important. And breaking that inner line really as well.
But we've got some videos out there. Look at those videos. The rest of the rendering is going to be kind of the same. Check out those videos, or I guess we can watch some of that on Thursday. Sorry that took me so long. Hopefully you got something out of it.
These prison clothes are hard to tell what they are by just looking at the cap.
Yeah.
Or the color on.
I'm getting sandpaper at Home Depot. Do you want me to pick you up some? Please.
David. Is that yours?
Was that just kind of a template, Jared?
What's that?
I don't think I really heard what this part was. So if this is all glass, is this just a recess?
This is
into it?
just a recessed. That material is wrapping, and there's a recess
Okay,
right there.
okay.
Yeah, that's all it is. How much longer do we have before the next class comes in?
I think like
I can actually
15
turn in this
15
one.
minutes.
Totally forgot.
Yeah, it's been the corner.
Okay.
That's the EDC.
Yep. I didn't even forget a background. Gosh.
Hey, I found your.
Transparency.
Yes,
Why is that at your office?
it is.
Ah.
I did not throw it away.
Thank you so much.
You are welcome. Let's see. So.
May I come to take it?
Yeah. Yeah. Give me a few minutes.
I got a problem I want to ask.
Okay.
But the glass, about the glass, the highlight reflection. I remember we did that on the flat surface. Just draw a line, like a white line.
Yeah.
And the highlight. What about on the like a curve?
I still kind of use it like a cylindrical a little bit, so I have vertical lines.
What if you have the thickness? Is it gonna like a reflection is going on the surface? What about this side? There's no more.
So
There's
is it-
nothing.
I'm not sure what you're asking exactly.
Like just like can I use this one?
Yeah.
Like you like okay, inside is like there's one line. Inside that has another line, right? Because
Yeah.
of the thickness.
Yeah.
So the highlight reflection was only appear on the surface, not inside.
Right. So like here on this example here, I kind of show the thickness with sometimes a broken line. And then that thickness typically of the glass, you can kind of see the thickness. Sometimes it's darker,
Yeah.
sometimes it's lighter actually. It's kind of varies depending on the light scenario. If you show a double line and then make some of it darker, kind of fade it out, make some of it lighter, and have that second line on the inside broken, it just kind of gives you this highlight with light reflectivity.
Okay. This is yours, I think.
Okay. Yeah. Is my pen's for your pencil? Okay. I don't know what you grabbed from my office.
No. I think the pencil's mine. Wait, did you have one sitting on your desk?
Yeah.
Then it's yours. Why don't you take it?
If I find it, I'll bring it back to you.
Okay.
I'm not a fan of those Prismacolor. I don't use Prismacolor except for like pop colors.
You know, I've got all my markers. All my colors are at home.
Yeah.
I don't know why I haven't.
You mean carry anything out? I'll come back down once you're done. So, you have a question, Scott?
Yeah.
Okay.
Have a good one, Russ.
Let's go.
Yeah. Yeah. I think he started the class with a question like, did you guys enjoy this?
Yeah. When you started it.
Yeah. You guys are, I hope you guys don't have us do like speakers or instruments, because it seems like every topic we do, I end up hating by the end of it.
We've done speakers in the past, but I don't think we're doing this much.
Ah, good, good.
Hey Jared,
Yes.
last Friday, we talked about the grading thing. You said you want to talk.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Right?
Do you 2:30? I have something going on at 2:30. Are you able to talk this afternoon a little bit? Are you
I got
busy?
class during 2 to 3 and 4 to 5. So between 3 and 4.
Um,
Not available. or we can just talk in email. That's alright.
Well, so what I want to do with y'all is sit down. Let's set a time.
Okay.
What I want to do is sit down with y'all and look at some of the work, and so we're on the same page as far as like what
Yeah. I'm not.
what to count and what not to count.
Okay. I'm not quite sure like when Anna is available because her schedule is different from mine.
And I think I think I'm gonna ask Anna to do something different.
Okay.
Like I think we've got this the spreadsheet of people who have volunteered to be mentors in our program, and it has nothing to do with a sketch class, but I just don't know how to take advantage of both of y'all right now.
Yeah, it's just she sent she can't like be here in class,
Yeah.
so she want to do something, you know. That's why she sent email to you.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah. I mean, whenever you.
Oh, I see.
I tell you what, I'll set up a doodle poll for me, you, and Rusty and Anna to sit down sometime
Yeah, just send us
later this week or early next week. It's not a big hurry. Rusty did mention, and I think it would be nice if you were willing to.
Should go on the rest of the day.
We're doing the storyboard for this, so we're encouraging them to show hands and you know how you might pick this up. So if you wanted to show if you wanted to do a demo of how you draw hands next Tuesday,
next Tuesday.
and maybe showing hands performing specific tasks like grabbing something or going around around a handle, and then what you had in your sketchbook would be awesome. Okay?
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
No problem. Do you want me to grab everything?